kitchen to show you how to make tomato basil frittata, which actually sounds a little bit fancier than it actually is. A frittata is simply baked eggs, and this is a delicious breakfast or brunch recipe. Very nutritious and very inexpensive and very simple. It's made from eggs, milk, some mozzarella cheese, some tomatoes, and some fresh basil. So I am going to get started here and show you how to make this frittata. You'll need a couple of tools to make this frittata, and the most important one being some sort of a 10-inch non-stick skillet that is also oven safe. I am using an enamel covered cast iron skillet, and this one's really old, but I can link a similar one to Amazon below. You're going to want something non-stick to make sure that the frittata comes out of the pan easily once it's done. And you want something oven safe because although we're going to start this on the stovetop, it is going to be transferred to the oven. So if you're using a different kind of skillet, you want to make sure that the handle and all parts of the skillet are oven safe. The other tools you're going to need is some sort of a silicone spatula like this. I'll also be using a medium mixing bowl and a whisk. You're also going to want to go ahead and preheat your oven to 375 degrees. Next, I'm just going to take my skillet and give it a little coating of some non-stick cooking spray. I'm going to go ahead and preheat the pan to about medium-low heat. While that's heating, you're just going to want to go ahead and dice up about 1/4 cup of onion, and I am using sweet yellow onion. I'm going to go ahead and slice up my tomatoes as well. I'm using the smaller Campari tomatoes, and I'm going to use about 4 of them because these are pretty small. These are going to equal about 1 cup of sliced tomatoes. Okay, my pan has been preheating on the stovetop for about 2.5 to 3 minutes, and it feels like it's starting to get warm, so I'm going to go ahead and add the onions to that pan. And you hear that sizzle, so that means it's ready, and it sounds a little high. I'm actually going to crank this down to low. And you're going to want to let that go for about 3 minutes until the onions get translucent. And while those onions are going on low, I'm going to go ahead and start cracking my eggs. You're going to want to crack 10 eggs into a medium or large size bowl. Go ahead and give those onions a little stir. Make sure they get cooked good and evenly. Okay, I've got my 10 eggs cracked. So I'm going to go ahead and add in the 1/2 cup of milk. I'm using 1%, but any kind of milk you have should work just fine. I'm going to add about 1/2 teaspoon of salt to that. Then I'm just going to beat until those eggs are well scrambled. Next, I'm going to add in 1/2 of my cup of mozzarella cheese and stir it into my egg mixture. I'm going to give these onions one last little toss. Now I'm going to add the tomatoes to the pan. And I'm going to pour the egg mixture over the onions and the tomatoes. What's going to happen now is the edges are going to start to set. Now you are going to get a little bit, after this is completely done, you are going to get a little bit of a brown crust on the bottom of the eggs. But I myself don't like eggs to be too burned, and so in my opinion, it's better to err on the side of lower heat. So like I said, low, medium heat, and just watch for those edges to start to set. While those edges are setting, I'm going to snip off a couple of these stems of basil. Just take them over to the sink and wash them really good. Now I'm going to start to remove those washed basil leaves from the stem. And I can see that my eggs are starting to set a little bit, so I am going to pull these away from the pan just like we talked about. Just to get some of the solid eggs, push them toward the middle and let some of that liquid flow into the hot side of the pan. And once you've gone around the pan, give it another few seconds or so to set up again, and you're going to do the same thing all over again. At the end of this process, what you're going to be left with is mostly set eggs with kind of a runny center and top. I'm going to go ahead and turn off the heat. I'm going to take the other 1/2 of my cheese and just sprinkle it on top. And next I'm going to take the basil leaves and just place them on the top. If you're using cast iron like me, be careful. Even though it's on the stovetop, it does conduct heat into the handle, so I'm actually going to use my pot holder. You can see like it's mostly set. It's kind of liquidy on top, but I'm going to go ahead and place this in the oven at 375 degrees. What's going to happen now, if you use your oven light, those eggs are going to start to bubble up a little bit and kind of fluff up. And I'm going to keep an eye on it. I usually let this go for about 15 minutes, but what you want to do is to look and make sure that the top looks solid. Okay, it's been exactly 15 minutes and I've checked my frittata and it looks like it is perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and remove it from the oven. And I don't know if you can tell how much this has bubbled up. Almost over the top of the pan. I'm going to let it sit for about 15 minutes so it can cool before I remove it from the pan. What I'm going to do is just take my silicone spatula, kind of just give it a lift around the edges just to make sure it's not stuck. All right, this is when you're going to be really glad that you used non-stick. Now you're just going to kind of use your spatula to lift it from the pan, and there you go. You're left with this yummy, beautiful frittata, and what I normally do is make a giant plus sign. That would give you 4 big servings if you want to go that way. But normally I go ahead and make 8 smaller servings because some people, you know, aren't as big of eater as I am. So I'll make a giant plus sign which cuts it into 4 pieces, and then I'll cut those pieces in half as well. And I'll show you guys a picture of the finished product. This cooking tutorial video. If you would like to see more videos like this, leave me a comment or give me a thumbs up. And as always, for the recipe and a full printable version, head on over to apinchofhealthy.com and I will link that specific recipe below in the comment description box.